All right, what's going on, guys? We are live. I wanted to just take a quick second and share with you something that I've actually found really powerful in discussing with my clients today. Don't let the sweatpants and the hoodie distract you from kind of my message and what I have to share up today about overeating and some things that you can try to help reduce that and kind of why that's important. And one of the reasons that I try to present my best self on these lives, but I also like to be as transparent and raw as possible. And me, my wife, and my kids have been sick for a couple days now, and so I just don't feel the best physically, but I'm trying to stay there mentally. So that's why I feel like going live during these times is important, because that's the reality. This is kind of what I'm living in right now. So, but I wanted to share something. And this was a breakthrough I was able to have with one of my clients today on our coaching call, and I thought it was really powerful, so I wanted to share it with as many people as possible. So if you are watching live, do hashtag live. If you're watching on a replay, do hashtag replay, just because that helps it get to more people. And I feel like this is a really, really powerful thing, especially going into the holidays and trying to reduce overeating if that is your goal. Now, if you're not super familiar with who I am, Connor Hansen, I have a coaching business. Originally, I've been really focusing on kind of like body recomp, body transformation, but I've kind of been shifting my focus a little bit more on just the physical side to more of like, kind of empowering individuals, specifically moms and dads, to kind of own their life by breaking through different limitations, kind of stepping into their health. And being kind of the best parent and spouse possible, using, that kind of a flow method, using a method that we address more than just your physical health, but kind of everything that encompasses it. So one of the things that we're talking about today really quickly is how to reduce overeating. So the biggest thing, and one of the big questions you want to ask yourself, so if you have a goal of, let's say, losing X amount of weight, asking yourself what is some of those things that are maybe holding you back or roadblocks to that, right? So overeating is usually the biggest one for people. Is what's going on, Brock? Overeating is usually the biggest thing for people, right? That's why we are sometimes the weight that we don't want to be, is because we have a tendency to overeat for whatever reason. I'm not going to say it's one reason versus another, because every human being is completely different. So consuming more calories than our body's burning, that's kind of the big thing. Now, asking ourselves what is causing that, that's a big thing, right? Usually it's some type of thought or emotional response, and then our kind of what we move towards is overeating. Now, there's a period of time, and we'll talk about that in just a second, where, because if you've been following me for a little while, you know the model of there's a circumstance, there's something that happens to you, you have a thought about that, which dictates an emotional response, right? A vibration, a release of chemicals about that thought. And then that leads to an action. We take action off of that emotional response, and then our actions dictate our results. And so somewhere in that process, we have to actively go in and control the situation. Otherwise, it'll just happen to us, right? So a lot of times we feel like we don't have control over the situations, and that's the circumstance, right? That's our thought about whatever's happening. Now, in the terms of overeating, right? Overeating is the result, or it could also be considered the action. The result could be gaining weight. The action is we are overeating. Understanding where the emotional response is, the emotion that we're feeling, that is causing that overeating, right? That's kind of what we're diving in. So, and before we get into the actual process of it, I understand that it's a lot easier said than done, first, and two, that this takes effort. And this is one of the reasons that people don't actually follow through with something like this, because it takes conscious effort. And that's, if you know anything about evolutional biology or whatever, like, human beings want to get the most results with the most little amount of effort, right? Like we resist effort, we resist change. We want to do what's easiest, right? Which is why a lot of us in our downtime spend time, binge Netflix and eat more calories than we should. That's a whole other thing. So in this, we want to recognize, right? It takes effort, but we want to recognize that a circumstance will happen. we will have a thought about that. And then between the thought and the emotion, that's where we need to capture the moment. We need to stop it. So I'll give you an example. You had a long day of work and your thought is, I deserve, you're making, food for your kids. I deserve this food, right? Or I deserve this root beer float. Or I deserve, or you have a certain thought and then you have an emotion and then there's that feedback loop of like, yeah, you know what? I do deserve that. And then the feedback loop of the emotion keeps the thought going and it's this constant cycle. And then the action is eating whatever food that is. Now, my big call to action in this live today is to, one, be aware that that is happening. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that doesn't happen to me. I just eat, blah, blah, blah. No, this happens to everybody. This is fact. Like, you have a thought, you have an emotion, you act on that emotion. And being aware of it can help you. Just that fact alone, being aware of it can definitely help you. So you be aware of it. You want to pause in that moment. Before you feel the emotion, before you take the action, you want to pause in that moment. If you can give that moment a name, awesome. But you want to pause in that moment. And then you want to decide on purpose, acknowledging, being aware that you are eating whatever food that you are eating, right? So let's go for the root beer float, for example. You pause. Okay, I deserve this root beer float. That's my initial thought. Pause. Okay, so pause is the first thing. Give a reason, like decide on purpose that you're going to eat it. Okay, I'm going to eat this root beer float, and then give an acknowledgement of why. Because I feel like it will help me feel better. I feel like it will comfort me. I feel like I will gain something by eating this root beer float. Okay, and then either follow through with that, eat the root beer float, or don't, and then evaluate after the fact. So then when you're done, you think back on it and think, okay, did that get the response or did that result in what I wanted it to? Did it help me feel better? Did it help me feel worse? How was I feeling while I was eating it, right? Being aware of our thoughts while we are eating instead of just eating and letting that happen to us. Does this make sense? If this is making sense, do #make sense. So the reason that this is important is because then we are in control of our eating, right? I did a little video a while back that there's 4 types of eating. First type of eating is purposeful eating, right? Fueling our bodies. The second type of eating, this is what we should do most of the time. Second type of eating is like the enjoyment eating. It's the socializing. It's the calorie dense foods. It's those types of things. And these 2 things need to be in our day to day. We need to be eating to fuel our bodies, and we need to be eating those enjoyable type foods, or else it's not sustainable. Then there's 2 types of eating that are less beneficial, like phase or foggy eating, where you get done with a bag of chips and you have no idea that you even ate those. And the last type of eating, which I would argue is the worst, would be considered like binge eating, where you're aware that you're eating, but you just can't physically stop. And those 2 things, those are more psychological than physiological, right? Or those are more psychological than this type of eating where you're eating like for enjoyment. This is usually more social or something like that. So to not get too deep and to not go too far into this video, that would be my homework for you, or my call to action for you, is the next time you're going to eat, especially if you have a goal of losing weight, or especially if you have goals during the holiday season of just like maintaining weight, which is really awesome. As you're going through it and you're going through these intense, there's going to be food, there's going to be temptations, there's going to be all those types of things. When you're going through it, before you act, before you have that emotional response, which then leads to action, question yourself, right? First is pause. Second is decide on purpose if you're going to eat that or if you're not going to eat that. And then ask yourself or give a purpose of why, and then evaluate it afterwards. It's really difficult to do the first couple times, but then the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So pause, do it on purpose, like decide on purpose, give a reason why, and then evaluate it. So as you do those 4 things, you will understand your nutrition, you'll understand your cues, you'll understand all those things that much bit better. And then you can understand why you are overeating. And doing this might even help cause that to stop. Like it may, I don't want to say fix that, but it can definitely remedy that. And then as you kind of get a hold on the situation, then you can go a little bit deeper. So like I said, this was just something that had a really cool like enlightening moment on a client call earlier today that I wanted to share with everybody else here on Facebook and Instagram. So if you have any questions on this, as always, DM me or put that there in the comments. But if you found this helpful, you can also do like #helpful. I'd really appreciate that, because then it gets to more people. And then if you also have any questions on like one-to-one coaching, group coaching, anything like that, let me know, and I will check you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a great day.